Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hearth of Coal. Today is just a little bit different. I feel like talking while I'm cooking, and I figure who better to talk to than you guys. So it's been running through my head today about learning, about life experience, how that brings us to where we are and what we're trying to do. All of us, not just we as our family unit, but we as in just people. And I see a lot of people struggling to adapt, right? Struggling to use new ideas, to really figure out what they're doing, what they're going to do, just in general. I mean, we could pinpoint it down to the recession. We could say it's, almost a depression. We could say, all of these areas are stemming on the economy and the breaking of the American family home and a loss of value and moral virtue. We could say all those things and they'd be absolutely true, but I'm just talking about in general. Big generalities, just people. And something my husband and I talked about this morning before he left for work was how people are afraid to come out of their box, right? So your whole life you have this idea of who you are, and any alteration to that idea of who you are is scary, right? For a lot of people it's so scary they never do it. They never expand the size of their box beyond what maybe they've been told by family or what they've been told by friends or what they see on social media or the news or whatever else. So we talked about that, and it's interesting to look at how people behave through that lens. And I've kind of come to a thought process. And you're just sharing this rant with me, so I appreciate it if you stuck around with me this far. I don't usually go on these too often, but today is one of those days. So, one thing that some people have said to me in the past is that I'm not afraid of doing things, of trying things. And, how do I do that? It's very simple. It is scary, right? It can be scary to think about wasting resources in order to try something, or coming up with a new way of doing something that may not work. But what if it does, right? Finish the equation. What if? And I say it that way. I had a chemistry teacher at Wayne County Community College. Kind of a little tangent. But she and I had no great love for chemistry, right? I mean, it's just not in my wheelhouse. I understand how it's useful. I did not pass that class. But I fell in love with the teacher, and not in a weird, creepy way, but I fell in love with the way that she thought. She lived in downtown Detroit, and I don't know if this is still true, but at the time, she lived in downtown Detroit. She had a farm, right? A little farmstead right in the middle of Detroit. And she kept chickens, and she had a goat, and she had gardens, and she had rainwater collection systems. She had a composting toilet, if I remember my interaction with her correctly. And she did the experiments. And that was something that she said when I told her, I don't think I can do this. I don't have a mentality for it. She said, well, do the experiment, right? If you do this and it turns out poorly, what have you lost? If you do this and it turns out well, what have you gained? What have you lost? Do the experiment for yourself. Finish the equation. The equation may be, I don't know how to do this thing, but I want to do this thing, right? So what do I need to do in the middle to get to that end? And she's been bouncing around in my head lately, just with all of the different changes that we're making. And so how do you outgrow that box? Do the experiment. Try things. Go into it with the mindset that if I fail, that's okay. It teaches me a great lesson. It teaches me things that I did not know, both about myself and also about the process, whatever it is I'm trying to learn. A little bit of history. I'm a divorcee. My ex-husband was very fond of telling me all the things that I could not do, or that I could not do well. And for a lot of them, he was absolutely right. I could not cook very well. I could not grow vegetables very well. I couldn't manage my time, which I still struggle with. But that I could not do all these things. And he was right. But that didn't stop me from trying to do those things. Riley, get it. That didn't stop me from doing those things. It prevented me from trying, right? I stopped me from doing those things because I was afraid of the failure, right? I would waste resources and I wouldn't be able to amount to anything. Well, fast forward a number of years and a little bit of backbone, and I can do those things. I learned how to do them. Not because of what he said, but because I chose to fail. I chose to take the risk. And that's something that not everybody does, but if you do, you'll be rewarded, right? And not necessarily with monetary gains or production gains, but you'll be rewarded with something no one can take away from you. That's knowledge, right? Skill set. If you fail, you've learned, and that's more valuable than anything else. I really don't have a purpose for this video other than talking. Right now we're in my kitchen. I'm going to move you a little bit. So we're in my kitchen, right? Remember I told you that I was told that I was a horrible cook and I really had a hard time. My ex-husband told me I could burn water, and he wasn't wrong. But I've learned, right? I've grown and I've done things that helped me to become a better cook. That might not mean much to all of you, but to the ones that do, it's important. So here I've made homemade peach jam, right? I did that this morning. I did marinated chickpeas, which I've never had those before, but they looked good, so why not? And here's what I've been stirring. We've got a meat out of my freezer. I don't know if it's beef or lamb. I think it's probably beef, just how it smells. I know it's not venison because sadly I'm out, but this fall I'm getting more. Some dehydrated mushrooms. I just grabbed some out of my pantry, which, by the way, if you go to the grocery store and you see those sad little neglected cartons of mushrooms that are on the discount rack, they're awesome. Bring them home, right? You can, well, let's see if we can get a good angle. You can dehydrate them, right? And then they're shelf stable for a year at least. Throw the oven on lowest setting it'll go, 170, 180. Leave it in there while you're doing everything else through your day. And then at the end of the time, you've got dehydrated mushrooms that you can throw into a dish like this. Takes maybe 20 minutes to rehydrate them. I'm just using the gravy that is coming off of this meat to rehydrate them. Toss a little flour in that gravy and you've got, well, flour in that juice and you've got gravy. Rice, right? Just basic white rice, easiest thing in the world to cook once you figure out how to cook it. I don't use a recipe really unless it's something I've never done before. And I do that because it's all an experiment. It's just food, right? It's edible regardless, most of the time, regardless of what you do with it. So have fun, right? It's not anything that's going to hurt you. Now, one thing that will potentially is canning, right? So if you don't can appropriately, then yeah, that can hurt you. With that, follow the recipe. But with just everything else, what's it gonna hurt? Right? If I waste an onion and a half a pound of meat, yeah, that's a shame. I shouldn't waste food. At the same time, I've learned how to do it better next time. So, all the meat stuff, right? I make my own beef broth. It takes about 6 hours, and it made me 9 quarts. That 9 quarts, if I were to do that at the store, that's $3 a quart. You know, if you get the good stuff, and if you get the not good stuff, it's $2, $2.50. So you really do save yourself some money and time there. And then I've always got it. Talking about the resilience mindset, that idea of being able to prosper wherever you are, really that's what it comes down to. Be willing to fail and be open to the results that you get from that. That's how you get out of your box. That's how you get out of that mindset of I can't and into, well, I don't know, let me try it. So yeah, that's it. Just a little bit of kitchen talk, I guess. If you like this kind of content where I just ramble on and come to a point eventually, you can kind of see the little things that I do. If you like that sort of thing, let me know in the comment section, and hopefully you'll be able to get something good out of this. If not, let me know in the comment section. That's what's great about America. Fight for it to stay great with freedom of speech, freedom of expression. Um, so, yeah, I think that's my whole point. I'm just in a talky mood, and I appreciate you if you've stayed with me this far. Thanks for listening to me ramble, and hopefully you found something useful. Go out wherever you are, do something. It doesn't have to be new, it doesn't have to be exciting. Just do something and learn. That's the biggest thing. Always learn. And stay tuned to the Hearth of Coal for some good news. Hopefully by the end of the month, middle of next. And we'll be sharing our new space with you. All right, take care, guys, and we'll see you next time on the Hearth of Coal.